the homework. Problem number 1, in the example, they gave you 2 corresponding angles, angle number 1 and angle number 9. You were asked to name a different pair. There's a lot of different pairs you could have named. So let's look at that. They gave 1 and 9 a corresponding. Well, 1 and 5 are also corresponding in that same group with 9. So any of these two, 1, 5, and 9, would be corresponding. You could have also went to 3, 7, and 11. Those were all corresponding with each other. So you could have named 3 and 7, or 7 and 11, or 3 and 11. On the other side of this transversal, you have another set of corresponding angles, 2, 6, and 10. So any 2 of those 3 you could have said are corresponding. Then you also have 4, 8, and 11 that are corresponding. Alright, then you were supposed to name alternate interior angles. They named 4 and 5. There are plenty of others. Okay, so this is not the right one. Okay, here we go. So cross on the transversal on the inside of our parallel lines, they said 4 and 5, so we could go to the other set of parallel lines and do 8 and 9. We could come across the other way from 4 and 5 and do 3 and 6 would be corresponding. 7 and 10 are also corresponding. Now let's go to the third problem, linear pairs, which make those supplementary angles that add to 180. They said 1 and 3. Okay, that definitely makes a line. You could also say 5 and 7. You could say 9 and 11. On the other side, you could say 2 and 4, 6 and 8, or 10 and 12. Well, what about up and down? Can't we do that also? So we could also say 1 and 2 are supplementary, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So you had a lot of choices on the linear pairs. So let's go to number 2. So we're going to use this same diagram. If the measure of 7 is 108, what is the measure of number 12? So if 7 right here is 108, what is 12? Now, one thing to notice in these angles, if they look different, they're going to be different. Okay, angle 1 is an acute angle. It is not going to be the same as angle 2. They're not going to measure the same. Angle 2 is clearly an obtuse angle. So, don't always try to check yourself and don't pick them if they look different. So angle 7, if it's 108, it looks like 108. It's a little more than 90 degrees, so that's good. But now 12 doesn't look like 108. It is less than 90, so it's definitely going to be an acute angle. It's not going to be 108. Now, how do we figure out what it is? We have parallel lines here with the transversal. 7 is in this group of angles, and I want to go to this group of angles. I can do this along this transversal using principles. All right, there's different ways to do this. I could say, okay, I need to go down here to 12. 12, you could say, well, 12 and 10 are close to each other, so 7 and 10 are alternate interior. That makes them congruent. So 10 would be 108. These are supplementary. You didn't have to do that. I could say, okay, 7 and 11 are corresponding angles, and then 11 and 12 are supplementary. Either one of those ways you could probably come up with, you could go, these are supplementary, then these are alternate interior, these are vertical. Anyway, we should have come up with 72 for an answer. Let's just go with this. 7 is the same as 11. So they're both, this 11 is 108, 108 and 12 make 180. So measure of angle number 12 will be 72 degrees. Okay, so let's go on to the next page. And we've got problem number 3. So problem number 3, they give us this, and they want us to find missing angles. They're giving us the 65 here for angle 3, measure of angle 3, measure of 11 is 100. So let's look at that. Okay, so how do I find measure of angle 2? Well, if I know 3 is 65, 2 is a supplementary angle, so all I have to do is subtract 65 from 180 and I get 115 for angle 2. Again, see if that makes sense. This is 65. Yes, it's acute angle. This is obtuse, so 115 would make sense. Then we are asked about angle 5. Now, I have 2 parallel lines here. Here are my parallel lines. This is one transversal C. This is another transversal D. So if I know 3, I can't use this group of angles to get 5. These are not on the same transversal. So all our properties we're talking about go along the transversal, cutting the 2 parallel lines. So if I want angle 5, I have to get along this transversal. So I'm using the given angle 11, which is 100 degrees. So how do I get back up here to 5? And there's different ways to do this also. One way to do it is that 5, if I want to go from 5 back down here, so I could go from 5, I could jump down to 9. That's a corresponding angle. So they would be the same. 11 and 9 are vertical angles, so they would be the same. You could actually go from 11 to 7 corresponding and then vertical. You could, if you want to get a little more complicated, go vertical here, alternate interior here to 7, and then back vertical to 5. But the measure of angle 5 is 100 degrees, and I wrote down vertical and corresponding. Then we want 13. Well, 13 is over here. So again, I can't use the 100 that I was given because these two are not sets on the same transversal. So 13 is with this group, so I have to use these on this transversal. So if I know this is 65, I was given that. 13 and 3 are alternate interior angles. So they are corresponding with each other. They are congruent. So 3 and 13 are the same. So measure of angle 13 is also 65 degrees. Okay, now looking at the next question, number 4. Alright, on number 4, they want us to find 3, 8, 9, and 14 and show that those add to 180 degrees, which would be the sum of the interior angles of a trapezoid. And tell again which relationship we're going to use. Well, we were actually given angle number 3. So angle number 3 is equal to 65 degrees. So I wrote it over here. Now let's look again at that shape. Alright, so let's stay on this same transversal. I want to know this interior. Now here's my trapezoid. This interior thing makes a trapezoid. So if this is 65 at angle 3, I want to know 14. We already figured out that 13 was 65. This is alternate interior. Well, if 13 is 65, 13 and 14 make a linear pair. They are supplementary. So I should be able to subtract 65 from 180 to get angle 14, which makes it 115. You could have already said, I've already found number 2 at 115. 2 and 14 correspond. Alright, let's go back to that. So I just wrote down alternate interior and supplementary linear pair. Angle 3 is congruent to angle 13. 3 and 13 and 14 make 180. So angle 14 is 115. Then we're looking for the other side, 8 and 9. So let's do this quickly. Alright, so I was given 11 in the original problem, so 9 is a vertical angle, so I know that it's 100. Vertical angle. Also want 8. I could go alternate interior here to get 100, and then supplementary, so 100 plus 80 is equal to 180, so this one is 80 degrees. So we figured out the 4 angles, we add them up, and they do add to 360 degrees. Alright, on the last problem, are angle 3 and 5 congruent? No, they are not on the same transversal. We go back to look here, 3 and 5. We can't say anything about 3 and 5 because they're not on the same transversal. You could have also said this is acute, this is obtuse, there's no way they can be congruent. We've already figured out these measurements and we know that this is 100. You could have said this is 65, this is 100, so they're not congruent. So that was your homework last night. Now, let me see if I can get over here. Tonight's homework looks something similar to this. This is due Monday. It's kind of drawn a little weird. This may not be the exact same worksheet, but it looks like this. There's an arrow right here. It's kind of, they should have moved these numbers over, but anyway, these arrows are just indicating that those are lines. These are your parallel lines cut by this transversal. You've got angle 1, then angle 2 on the other side, angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, angle 6, angle 7, and 8. And you are given one measure, and your job is to find all the others for that one group. Again, this is due on Monday.